fools. Welcome to another Millionacres Spotlight interview. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about commercial real estate leasing, what's going to happen, especially on the retail side. The more people I talk to, the more curious I get. The more numbers I see, the more curious I get. So I'm here with Taj Adhav, who is the co-founder and CEO of Leasecake. And he's had more than 25 years in technology and business. He was an early hire at Channel Intelligence, which then had a successful exit to Google. He's managed more than $2 billion in assets for Disney development. He's seen so much that happens when you manage a large portfolio, which is just a lot. So I'm really excited to talk about Leasecake and a little bit about your career. So what are you seeing right now? How has leasing changed in this hopefully post-pandemic world?
Yeah, so thanks, Deidre, for allowing me to be a part of this. So I think what we've seen, certainly over the last year, is probably retail real estate's kind of fallen into three categories. And if you're a tenant operator, you're either struggling, you're learning, you're getting smarter, or you're taking advantage, and the strong have gotten stronger. And I think the ones that are struggling are trying to figure out effectively kind of how to ship and scale organizationally.
Interesting. So one of the things I've heard of is shorter term leases. Is that something that you're seeing?
So certainly there's this kind of great correction that's happening. I mean, from a landlord's perspective, they're looking at lots of different creative ways to, keep really strong retail tenants in place. And we haven't seen a ton of shorter lease terms. I think certainly more favorable lease rates to ensure that they stay longer term. So you've heard of the notion of blend and extend, taking a look at the financial metrics that are driving the success of a particular retail tenant, and saying, hey, we're going to weather the storm with you, and let's make sure that you can successfully move beyond this, and the landlord can recover their rents through a slightly longer term. So those are the ones that are the smarter ones, getting really creative with their tenants, kind of rolling up their sleeves.
Awesome. Can you just explain what blend and extend is for the audience?
Yeah, so it's basically saying, look, if you're paying $40 a foot for retail space in a prime area and you've been impacted, consumers aren't showing up at your in your store, let's reduce the rate, right? Blend it into a rate that's more affordable, and then extend the term of the lease. That's the simplest way to look at it. There's lots of different mechanics behind it, but it's basically saying, let's make sure that you succeed. We're all in this together, and blend and extend is just one of the concepts that they use.
So what are some of the other options and incentives that landlords are looking at to either keep tenants longer or get tenants into space now?
Yeah, I think there's a variety of things. So if you're looking at it on the retail side with quick serve restaurants, there's certainly a tighter retail footprint that usually works more successfully. Certainly we've seen that during COVID. If you're a restaurant operator with, say 3,000 square feet, you probably don't need that space. And if you're running really well successfully with, touchless pickup, right, or contactless delivery, you're going to need to make sure that you're operating your kitchen really effectively, because you don't need the table space inside. So, a tightening of the space, a little more increased density of a retail shopping plaza, for example. And then on the other side, I think it's a diversification of the mix of retail. There's medtail is obviously a very large growing area in retail real estate, where because of health concerns, because consumers there's less and less time to do things. It's so much easier to pick up coffee right after you've had your workout, and then let me go in and whether it's chiropractor, dental office, quick doctor's checkup, or the like. So medical retail space is certainly a very active area that we're seeing growth in. And again, it kind of runs the gamut. Anyone that is in any kind of personal services, dental, doctor, physical therapy, etc. You've got to be where customers are, and I think that's where you can increase the diversification of your retail real estate portfolio by being serving more markets.
Yeah, totally. That's one of the things that I've been talking to other analysts about is about more medical in malls and also cosmeceutical, that sort of evolution of, where you get your Botox and things like that. Also wanted to ask you what you're seeing in terms of pop-up shops and direct-to-consumer brands, because it seems like there's a little bit of activity, more direct-to-consumer ads, brands. Some of them that kind of thrived during the pandemic are now actually looking for physical space, which is kind of exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we're not really we're not really seeing the pop-up shops in terms of selling direct-to-consumer goods, but certainly direct-to-consumer personal services, like you mentioned, cosmeceutical. I mean, personal services. Get your teeth whitened. I mean, kind of the quicker turn areas. I think there's definite potential, but it's like, how do you maximize your real estate footprint? So we're kind of seeing the gamut. But again, I think it's really the landlords who can be creative with their mix and be more appealing to different types. That's what we're seeing. Like, we're seeing the growth on the fitness category, believe it or not. This is kind of where the strong get stronger. Personal services, massage, tanning, nails, all of that is definitely a pretty big angle of what we're seeing, certainly from our side, on the software side.
Interesting. I think with the fitness, is it the studio size or is it the like full gym size in terms of a space?
So if you look at it's on the retail side, like on a retail, like a shopping center, it wouldn't necessarily be the full service size. We do see that, but I think if you look at let's say it's a rowing club or a the different kind of gym, but Pilates as an example, where you can control the number of people, and it's a very kind of a 1 to 5, very structured kind of training. That's, we've seen is quite successful. So it's a fascinating mix. Again, it's the bigger ones like we see Planet Fitness, Anytime Fitness. Those larger footprints are really growing strong because they're taking advantage of weakness. But also smaller, kind of newer concepts on the boutique side are winning as well, simply because of the how they can manage the number of customers that are walking to the door with a really curated, controlled experience, gives safety and comfort for their guests and their staff.
Interesting. I know it's probably too soon to know, but what are you thinking about the new maskless guidelines? Do you think that's going to then increase the need for retail space? Is that going to have an impact?
I think it depends kind of market to market, state to state. We've seen certain areas. I'm in Florida, and so Orlando's a lot different than Miami. But I think we're already seeing some openness and some greater comfort, and certainly a lift in consumer spending at retail shops because it's starting to open up. It is still a bit early to tell, but I'm fairly bullish, and I think I'd say certainly our customers are fairly bullish on the future of retail real estate in terms of how they want to take advantage of weakness in the market and find even better locations they can expand into more affordably.
So I've seen that dollar stores are adding a ton of space right now. That's really big. What other segments are you seeing? Any big brands that you're seeing being really ambitious with space?
So, I would say kind of back on the personal services side, we're seeing some pretty strong growth there. And it's surprising, right? Most people would say, "Oh my gosh, fitness clubs would, they're going to be dying. They're
Right.
definitely more at risk." But kind of along that theme of, you're either suffering or you're getting smarter or you're growing. Most of our customers are getting smarter and growing. So, MedTail, the personal services side. So if you look at concepts like Sola salons growing because they've got great jobs for people with kind of this smaller studio and salon-based organization. So Sola business and their footprint. And it's very much, each one of those smaller little salon buildings are very, again, controlled, right? It gives a sense of comfort to their guests instead of walking into a large gym or a large salon, etc. So that's what we're seeing. Those are a couple of examples.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about Leasecake. You're a newer company. Tell the audience what the problem is that Leasecake is looking to solve.
There's so much risk that's really buried in a commercial real estate lease. Renewal options that might be forgotten, lease, rent increases, lease termination clauses, personal guarantees, all of those things. There's really no system for, and what we've done is created a way to easily access and be proactively notified for all of those things that matter, and say primarily we're really in the answer business, right? Everybody lives on their mobile device, and it's moving away from antiquated solutions like spreadsheets or Dropbox folders or corporate shared drives. And I think, frankly, that's what the commercial real estate industry is really needing, and we've seen phenomenal growth all last year just because of that. There's no other time did it expose the risk of being a retail tenant or being a retail landlord than COVID. Like, people needed to know who their landlord was, and what the rents were, and what are my renegotiating terms that are important. So we've seen phenomenal growth. It's pretty exciting.
So I was looking at the materials on your site, and one of the things that you talked about is the savings that can happen, keeping people aware of clauses in their contract and things like that. Can you explain a little bit about how that works and how it keeps landlords and tenants in a better frame of mind?
Yeah, absolutely, Deidre. So we've discovered this herb, and what owns or leases commercial real estate. So we said, where's the app for that? And there's obviously two parties that are, signatories to a lease, right? I mean, ultimately it's a partnership. So for a tenant to make sure that they focus on their own business, while at the same time being in accordance with all the lease terms and making sure they don't get hit with any landmines, that's important from a tenant perspective. And then from a landlord perspective, they want to make sure that they're complying with the lease as well, and having kind of this symbiotic relationship, right? If their tenant succeeds, then they succeed. The tenant grows, and they add more space. So bringing those two parties together in a way that there's kind of a seamless and transparent view between both in terms of what matters to each party is really the key driver. But on top of that, 30% of tenants are landlords too. It's one party or the other. So many of our customers that are tenants, a couple of retail buildings or shopping centers. So we find that market is definitely, it's been untapped.
So you're based in Orlando. One of the trends that I'm seeing is startups don't have to go to Silicon Valley. They can be kind of anywhere. So you raised $3 million this year. What was that process like for you?
Yeah, I would say it was very exciting and very rewarding because, frankly, we've been in business for 3 years, and it started over a cup of coffee at a diner. So while we recognized the market opportunity, we were very thankful that our earliest customers became investors. But because of what happened with COVID, seeing more and more of our retail growth, we've been talking to probably over 100 different VCs, certainly over the course of the last couple of years. So because of the growth that they saw in what we were doing, back in February of last year, and then in May of last year, then in June and July, more of them got interested. So it was great to see an alignment of venture investors that said, "Geez, what you're doing is fascinating. We've never seen this kind of growth, not only on the retail side, but certainly office and industrial with our customer base." So that part of it was refreshing. So when we looked at East Coast investors and West Coast investors, we've got a good mix, and we moved from term sheet to fully oversubscribed round, and we closed that in February. So I think there's definitely opportunities outside of the typical markets, Silicon Valley, New York, LA, and technology can exist anywhere, and I think talented groups of people that with their minds to it and that are innately trusted, empathetic, and have a high degree of curiosity are really, if they're focused on the problems and they're listening to customers, we can actually change markets and transform business. So that's the part that we found the most rewarding. It was nice to get investors that see our vision of really being kind of a global business transformation opportunity and truly an operating system, because that's really the dependency that we have across our customers.
So is that the end goal for Leasecake, is to be that operating system for commercial real estate?
Absolutely. That's definitely the goal. I would say this. It started with this simple statement, right, over a cup of coffee. It's if everybody in business owns or leases commercial real estate, where's the app for that? And so when we created this simple, surprising brand called Leasecake, this is an opportunity for us to become the Dropbox of lease and location management, the DocuSign for lease and location management, the Google Sheets version of lease and location management. There's a lot of different opportunities, even LinkedIn, right? To create a network effects company, it's not just a landlord solution or a tenant solution. As we talk, both parties need to communicate. Both parties need to be on the same page, even though they might have some opposing forces. But the combination of all the people that were part of that successful growth, CPA firms, insurance brokers, real estate brokers, lenders, that entire community is who we're serving today, in providing a solution that is beyond just commercial real estate. That's why, from a business transformation perspective, that's why we're quite different from most other companies.
Interesting. So you just mentioned earlier that it's more than retail. You're also working with office and industrial. What percentages of each are you currently working with within Leasecake? How much of it is retail versus office and industrial?
Yeah, I would say probably, looking at the numbers just last week, about 60% retail, 20 to 25% office, and then the balance on the industrial side. Like I mentioned, retail tenants, 30% of them are landlords too. And while they may own their own shopping center, they may own their own mall, as well as run their multi-unit office. Having them be able to diversify into, they own office buildings as well, right? Or they happen to be in the delivery business and they happen to, have some land and they're leasing land, right? From an industrial perspective, they need more warehouse storage. So that's where there needs to be a solution that not only fits all the business ecosystem involved in commercial real estate, but also all the use cases of whether you're a landlord or a tenant. And that's what we love doing. So it's kind of like a one size fits all in a very consumer centric, simple and surprising brand called Leasecake.
So office, what are you feeling about office? There's so much talk right now. What's your take on remote work? Are we going back to the office? What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say the employees are going to be the ones that are driving the return to the office. It's certainly obviously disrupted office use, and there's there's some pain points there, but remote work is definitely a thing. I'd say that's one of the silver linings of COVID, having corporate office tenants understand and embrace the notion of remote work. But I think those days are kind of over. I think you're going to start to see employees say, I need to go back into the office, but I love remote work. It needs to be a blend, because if you're young, energetic, you've got a lot of drive and you want to lead teams, you got to be visible. You got to be seen. You got to be in the office. You got to show your boss what you're made of. And I think that's what I think is starting to happen. This balance. I mean, it's so easy for a head of corporate real estate within a company to say, oh my gosh, we're going to actually get free rent across all of our 10,000 employees in our office space, right? Because they're all working from home. So it's great for the bottom line, but it's not great from an employee's perspective, and certainly from a growing and finding talent, finding collaboration, water cooler conversations. That's definitely something we're seeing.
Interesting. And on the industrial side, one of the things that I've been studying a lot is the sort of the changing nature of industrial space, that it's becoming more automated, that there's more to it now than just a warehouse. Is that something that kind of factors in the leases as you sort of work between landlords and tenants?
So, I think there's a couple of things, and I would probably touch on this hybrid. So definitely, warehouse space, massive growth, right? I mean, there's no question about it comparatively to retail. I think the opportunities are not just to store stuff, but to deliver stuff, and delivering stuff requires vans and drivers and places to park those vans. So you're starting to see very creative uses of basically vacant lots, right? Abandoned buildings that happen to be unusable, but that 2-acre lot is unused land, and no one's going to develop an office building or a retail center on it. But if you're a creative landlord and you're able to market and lease that raw land as parking space for vans, I mean, we're seeing that. So I think there's a couple of aspects on the industrial side. That is, if you're successful, you not only need a tighter way to store and manage your inventory, what you're delivering, but also the logistics. Where are those vans gonna park? So it's pretty fascinating.
So one last question about Leasecake. Is it mostly for relatively large portfolios, or does it also work for smaller portfolios?
It's for both. We have small portfolios, if you will, of let's say 5 locations. They might have 100 employees across those 5 locations, and it could be a variety of different user types. But ultimately, there's always a small back office team, and if they're outsourcing the real estate department, they want to stay lean, they could use Leasecake. We have users and systems, for hundreds of locations, right? Corporate users that have bought Leasecake for 150 locations for, let's say, Ideal Image Med Spa. Certainly, Sola Salons is using us across all 500 of their franchise locations. So, again, I think it's about helping people understand the opportunity that technology can impart upon their organization, stay lean, and allow everybody to be on the same page, because you might not be immediately hiring, but let's use the team that you have and use them much smarter and much more strategically. So whether you're small or whether you're large, there's definitely a play. We've got some customers that have 120 locations, and they're inviting probably 100 of their team members, right? So a 100 location operator could have easily, several thousand employees, and so managing all of those teams across those 100 locations. What are the leaders that need to know what's going on and kind of stay one step ahead? So that's where we're kind of like we're really that one size fits all. We've got some Fortune 100 companies using us. We've got some mom and pops, but I mean, some of these companies, whether you call them a mom and pop, they might be making 80 to 100 million a year in gross. So it's pretty rewarding because I think, frankly, we help people sleep better at night, and we give them a better way to do business. So irrespective of what size you are, we're just easy.
I like that. So is that part of why you love what you do? Is this sort of your kind of dream job of bringing your past experience all together?
Yeah. So I say this often. It's kind of like I feel like I've been training for this all my life. I was a CPA, Big Four, a decade at Disney. I was an Imagineer. I helped build a software company. But I think my parents were commercial tenants for 10 years. Came to this country with $6 in their pocket. My co-founder, is a landlord with a large commercial real estate portfolio. So bringing all of that past experience into kind of an opportunity it's very rewarding. I certainly jump out of bed in the morning. I think our team definitely does. But end of the day, I think there's really 3 things that people look for, and whether you're working for us or whether you have your own successful company, right? You want to love what you do. love the people you're working with. You want to be financially secure, but you want to also be involved in something that's purposeful, right? Change the world or make a difference. So what we're happy about is our customers love Leasecake. And we would say that Leasecake is love, right? We're about trust a system, we're empathetic, and we're very curious and continuing to iterate and solve problems that every day these business owners face, and they've never had a solution for it. That's what we love.
Awesome. Perfect. That's a great place to end it. Thank you very much for your time, Taj.
You're welcome, Deidre. Enjoyed it. Thank you.